Hey, Gavin! It's your cousin Constance, who lives in Orlando, Florida, and is a costume designer, and also was a theater nerd, and went to a arts high school, and then went on to get their bachelor's from a art conservatory. So, you reaching out to me to ask for help, I'm the perfect person. I only wish you would ask me sooner because, baby, we could have made you could have just walked in there in like full costume regalia. You have family members who do this for a living. I mean, what's the point of having interesting, creative family members if you can't ask them for help? So this is me trying to help you with like minimal time, but I think we can go over some things that will really help. And I have this new book, which is, hold on. So I bought this book September, sometime at the beginning of last semester, and haven't really gotten a chance to look at it, but here is the cover. But when I was looking through it, I thought, this kind of looks like something that would be really good for like teenagers. I felt like the drawings, animation, or not animation, but like character style. Let's find some colored pictures. They even get into like gesture drawing and kind of getting away from everything having to be perfect. And I thought, I think this actually would be really good for teaching your age, like high school, middle school age, because of just how the book's layout is really simple. So I'm kind of excited to have this little bit of a challenge, which is why I'm like, I wish you had given me more time because we could have had way more in depth. But here we are, such is life. We just move on and we just keep making art. So the figure that I think will be best for today is this one. And of course, you can make your figure wear anything you want. As we go through this, you'll see how at some point you just have a figure with legs and arms and feet, and you can go about your business making it into this type of garment, that type of garment, add a headdress, add gloves, add sleeves. Once you kind of get the basic form, you can really make it into anything. And it sounds like they're looking for, in the guidelines, they're looking for your artistic eye and to see if you can really explain what they're wearing. Why is it this? Why is it that? Why did you pick this? The length, the textures, all of those good things, right? So let's go ahead and jump into the drawing portion of this. And don't get overwhelmed with drawing. They are really looking to see, like, did you at least attempt it? And did you do well at attempting it? Because looks like you're going for more acting, musical theater, and less of like my side. But I started out just like you. Like, I auditioned for Dr. Phillips to be an actor, singer, voiceover, tap, Broadway star, and now I'm doing this, but I also do lots of other things too because I am just an artist, and I feel like you were probably just like a super duper artist. I'm sure there's lots of things that you can do, and you're gonna nail design because if when art is your calling, it doesn't matter what type of art you're doing, it really is the same. So the same kind of like energy and attention to detail that you put into your character development, we put the exact same mind into what these characters are going to be wearing, because costume design is the most simplest way to put it is costume design is storytelling through fabric, shape, design, color, and texture. And there might be hue, and there might be something else. But that's generally it, like all of those things. And so, like, what am I wearing here? Like, what does this say? Why am I wearing a jacket in my own house? Because I'm cold, because I'm a Floridian. So, we think about these things. I love beads. I like shiny things. My nails are always chipped, but I like shiny stuff anyways. Like, all of the elements that I'm wearing tell the story about me. And those are the things that we need to look for in costume design. But this type of attention to detail also goes into set design, and we'll talk a little bit about that as best as I can. I've taken all those classes. Like, I've taken model making. Ooh, that class was really hard. I've taken scenic design. I've done scenic design in the past. I've been a prop master, installation artist. Like, I've done the gamut of all of this. So I'm like, it's okay. We're going to get you through this. So let's get into drawing, and I'm going to flip my camera around. so you can see what I'm doing. Well, I flipped my camera around and now we are in down drawing mode. In the in-between, I also did a sketch. I've never used this technique before, and I did a couple of modifications, but I also wanted you to see what it wants it to look like when it's done, and also that I always have my reference photos. So Gomez is always in a striped suit. I wanted to show the original Gomez, and then of course my personal favorite Gomez from the 90s. He really brought a lot to this character. Like, each Gomez I love, but this one I just love that you know that he loves Morticia. Like, there is no doubt in your mind any moment when Gomez, whether he is dueling with someone or going off on a poet, no matter what he does, he always loves Morticia, and there's just something really wonderful about that. And I feel like his love is really represented in the big stripes. Like, this is what I mean by we tell story through the colors and patterns. Like, everything about Gomez is bold. He's very confident. He wears these big stripes, and as you can see in the first one, get closer, that he also is wearing pinstripes, but this is more of the period where the costume designer who reimagined it in the 90s really went there with, like, you know, he loses the what's different, you know. It's all, I always play that, like, what changed. He has a bow tie instead of a regular tie here. Bow ties are much bigger. Like, they make a statement. You know, the Nation of Islam. Like, a lot of brothers run around selling bean pies wearing bow ties. People take you serious when you wear a bow tie. It means business. Also, these stripes. Like, these are power stripes. Even his ascot is, like, big and wonderful because he needs lots of things to gesture with. One thing that's really great about having Gomez in a double-breasted jacket, which I believe it's always been a double-breasted jacket, and that's a choice too. Like, you have to think, and so I don't know if you can see it, but the jacket is quite long. Like, the jacket goes all the way down here, which signifies a different look than what our modern age has. Can you see any of that? Maybe not. Hold on. Okay, so let's try with the Prismacolor. Hopefully you can see what I'm saying here. Let's see, is that a little bit? Yeah, that's better. So Gomez's suit is always portrayed not on the period. Like, this is very much a 1940s zoot suit. You're a little too young to see, I don't know, are you too young? Nah, this is America. Kids see everything. I was gonna say, you should really see the autobiography of Malcolm X, to be perfectly honest. It is, one, a really great film, but two, the zoot suits are, like, amazing. The costume design, and that's a film that's costume designed by Ruth Carter, which I'm sure you've seen, Black Panther. That was one of her big breakout films, was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And his shoes are down here, and I think the shoe is something like that. So I'm just doing this so you can really, I want you to see the outline of his suit and what types of shapes we have here as it relates to this type of drawing style that's all squares and kind of like building the musculature of the body and the weight of the body with muscles and squares instead of with curves and lines. Like, there's a couple of different methods, but I feel like hopefully you'll get the concept, and these types of concepts, I don't know what I'm doing with this head, will translate into the scene design as well. So Gomez, I know that I want him to have, like, even though his waist is probably right about here, as your waist aligns with your elbows. So I know that his waist is here, but the end of his jacket is down here. These are things that I just take a note of in terms of proportions. Like, his pants are here, the end of his jacket's here, his waist is here, his shoulders are here, his head is here. We'll get into it when we get over into this, but this is how you look at your reference. Like, what are we looking at? Even though this drawing if you were to follow it like step by step by step, will lead you to this, even though this is not the drawing that you want, correct? This is their design. We just take the bones and we add art to it. So let's go ahead and get started into the drawing. You are going to need, I was gonna just have you jump right into watercolor paper, but you will also need tracing paper for the scenic art part of this. So watercolor paper, listen, your cousin hasn't really been making a lot of money. Unlike all the other family members, I went directly into the arts right in the middle of a recession. So I learned to use Fun Time. This is an eraser. I love fun racers. And this is a pencil from La Dollar Tree, where I get a lot of art supplies. And you will also... you will also need a ruler. It does not have to be a see-through plastic ruler. It does make it easier because you can see the lines, the numbers, and everything on it. And you can also do this, for example, like if I'm trying to get shapes, if I want to see like, okay, so I know this is straight, but their shoulders are angled, but I want to see their hips go this way. I can kind of play with the shapes with this ruler because I can see through it. It's nice to have. It's not a necessity, but I think that's it. Ruler, eraser, some kind of pencil. I also like mechanical pencils because you get really fine lines. So when you go in to do little details in the face, I can just go straight in without having to keep resharpening. Resharpening? Have to keep sharpening my pencil. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's get into this. Oh, hey, I wanted to say one thing. This ain't about perfectionism. This is not about getting it perfect. These people do not own your destiny. Whether you get into this program or not, you are always an artist because you came into this world as an artist. Like, that's the one thing I remember about you. I know I haven't seen you since elementary school, but like, you were always an artist. Oh, there we go. There's my whole face. Hey, I'm learning things too. It's not about perfectionism. It is about putting your heart and soul in it and doing it for the pure love of it and knowing that no matter what these people say, you're an artist and you're always going to be an artist and your art is always valid and worthy and deserving of being seen or not seen. If you decide to just make art for yourself, it really doesn't matter. So let's get into drawing. I have a lot of anxiety around drawing. It's not actually one of my strongest skills. I am skilled at a lot of other things like construction, painting, but drawing makes me a little nervous. So I always give like a little, hey, this makes me nervous too, kind of warning when it comes to drawing. So anyways, back to the lecture at hand. Here we go. Okay, so I got my see-through plastic ruler. So I made a couple amendments to their style. Like, thank you to the author for putting A, B, C, D on this. But I just have been trained, I guess, too long with the old method of having numbers. And I tried it before without the numbers and I kind of kept forgetting where my waist was and in terms of the proportions. It's like, remember over here with our proportions, like this is really important stuff, having your proportions correct. So I added in the numbers and I added them to each one. I also will scan these and upload them to a shared Google Docs so that you can have them and share them with anybody else. Like, I truly don't believe in gatekeeping. So if you know of any other teens who need this information, like, share the love. We are artists. We are here to make art and be seen and heard and be beautiful, but not to gatekeep or to think that, you know, it's my art and not your art. So like, no, art is for everybody. So yeah, so I made a couple amendments. Let's jump right on in here. In the instructions, it says make it an inch. It says make it 1 inch and 1/16. But I really thought that was a weird number and my brain couldn't remember it. I'm also dyslexic, so I'm not trying to make my brain hurt. So I did 1 1/4, and this is an 8.5 by 11 piece of watercolor paper, 140 weight, cold press, which is standard. I got this at Walmart, right? So we don't spend a lot of money on art supplies. Let's go ahead and divide them up at 1 1/4 or 1 1/4. I got 9 heads. So let's go ahead and draw our center line. Some people call this the plumb line. I just call it the center line because, I don't know, I'm not a plumber. Here we go. Woo! And also, I will be drawing a lot harder than what you should be drawing because it's the only way you'll be able to see it. But generally speaking, you want soft lines and kind of like a sketchy hand, like sketch, 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 instead of like, learn, right? Because it makes it harder, and watercolor paper has a little bit of a tooth to it. When you feel it, you'll be able to, if you haven't already handled watercolor paper before. I don't know your art background, but it has a little bit of tooth, and if you grind into it, like, I'll never be able to get these lines out. Like, they are forever ingrained, and this line will probably always be there forever, but that's okay. So we have our center line, and I'm gonna do 1 1/4 down the way. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Forget the bottom one. Woo! Yay, we did it. Okay, next. So it's asking you to, I am gonna add in the A, the C, the B, the D here, because I think it might help follow along, but then I feel like the number system is a lot better. So let's do A, number 5 is B, number 2 is C. See, I already feel like that's like infinitely better. So here is the bottom of our chin, and it's asking us to draw a free form line, and this is where, don't overthink it. Do not overthink this, okay? Just go with the flow. We're gonna go with the flow, and we can change it later, but don't overthink any of these lines. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Line! There we go. Wow, that was painful. Woo! Moving on to the next part. Okay, so next step. Let's go ahead and sketch in the head. Now, this figure is, as we call in the Western Hemisphere, a male. And these Western Hemisphere males have rather big jaws and kind of big heads. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a nice, juicy, big head. That's going to end up being a pretty thick neck down the line. All right, so our next line is coming in at about halfway between 2 and 3 here. They're calling that B. So this is our B line. Now this B line is our shoulders right here, right? So when looking at Gomez, like Gomez has really, really strong shoulders because this is a 1940s? Let's try that again. This is a 1940s zoot. I can't remember if suit has one I or E. I think it doesn't have an E if it's suit. And then it's sweet if it has an E. I don't know. I don't teach spelling. I teach art. Well, anyways, this is a 1940s zoot suit. And that's why we see the longer cut here. There's a lot of fabric going on, and also these shoulders. So I'm pointing these out because these are things that you have to think about when you are a costume designer and an artist about scale. Just like in music, we think about like how loud I am, how broad I am, like what is the scale of what I am singing. Can you even see that line? Oh, you can barely see that line. Okay, I'm gonna have to make it bolder. Bold line. Bold line. Good. So now that we have our nice big bold line, it's asking us to make a trapezoid, and this is where knowing geometry really, really helps. And I've often thought about how you could totally teach geometry and drawing at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and just make them parallel lines because that's how like my brain is really understanding this task. But I know that I want to hit probably about here. Just kidding. I want to hit maybe, I want to hit here with my curve. Because remember, it went here, boom. So it's telling us that this line and that this line and this line intersect. And over here, we get to guess. But usually the body is symmetrical to a certain extent. This person is looking at us straight on. So you can kind of just guess, like if it's this far on this side, it's this far on that side. Again, this is where having a see-through plastic ruler, if you really want to get very specific about it, this is here, this is there. That's really, really close. Boom. So this is gonna go here. Oh, it's so hard to do hard lines first because I'm so used to doing them really soft. And this is gonna go here, and we connect our bottom. Boom. Next, here is our, we'll say D and E box. There's a D over here. There's an E over here. This is why I don't like the letters, because it's like, then you have to go back and erase the letters as you go through the steps, where at least the numbers are like, the numbers stay the same. So let's go over here to E. And let's make an E, a D and E box. So this is number 4. For this line, I'm going to say, okay, so I think about it this way. So 1/2 of it is 50%. Half of that is 1/4. I'm going to say this line is about maybe just a hair under 1/4. And this is going counter to this line. So this line is headed this way. The hips are gonna go this way. And think about it like when you lean to one side or the other, how one side of your body gets squished, the side you're leaning on, while the other side opens up. So remember, we have to think about these things. So we're gonna go a little bit more this way. And it's not that it's not that big of a difference, but it's enough. And again, this line is also going, it's intersecting through 5. It almost touches our curved line over here by just maybe even closer by a hair. And this line looks like it's hitting just outside of over here. So I'm gonna just pop this baby down there. Boom. Next. All right, and then it's asking for a circle, and the circle looks pretty equidistant, if we want to use a big fancy word. Equidistant from, oh, that's not quite equidistant. That's close enough. Great. Moving on. Let's give this little baby some hands here. Hands and nipples. So the nipples are coming in because we are all mammals. Everybody has nipples. The nipples are coming in here. I'll show you how to do it with a ruler. Boom. So I want to follow this line right here, because your nipples are in line with your shoulders. As the shoulders do the moving, the nipples go with it, and the hip is independent. That's why the hip can do other things. So our shoulders, our nipples, and our waist all have to be going in the same direction. So I'm going to use this, and then our nipple line is right at 3. And then where the placement of where the areolas are, I'm going to say they're about right there. And remember, it's giving us some clues. So this areola is pretty close over here. And I really should have done this one before I did that one, because this one gave us a marker where this one didn't give us a marker, but it's okay. Moving on. So we have a C. Let's get rid of this D over here. We have a C over here and a 5. This is 5. I know it got a little lost. That's okay. This is your pelvis. 5 is floating. Our line is kind of here. 5 is hanging out. So remember, think about it this way. Your arms are kind of waterfalling this way from the body, that they're curving along with your body. So I want to put my hands kind of going, let's say this way, and then counterpoint. So the top of this square is right around 5. Sushi! Sushi racer! Ah! Okay. If this was a cartoon show, oh my god, it's totally like moving over. If this was a cartoon show, it would like the sushi would magically come over and just like and go away and then do it. So, you know, when I make that big money and get to have animated YouTube channel. Okay, so 5 is here. We're gonna boom right over there and do. It's also don't forget that this is a slanted line going this way. That hand is not quite that wide. And let's try over here. So this square is higher. It's hitting at like half. Maybe less, a little over half. So let's do 3/4 above this pelvic line. Let's try over here. And I say try because I literally mean try. I mean, put it down and see how it looks, because you have to keep working all over the whole thing. You can't really get stuck in one way of thinking or the other. So let's go down to the feet, which now is B and C. Get rid of that. B and C. So I'm looking here at 9. My 9 level is here. And it looks like this little toe dips just under the 9 line and goes almost up to the 8 line and is a elongated, I guess, trapezoid or something like that. Remember that your feet are wider at the toes than the ankles. That's something that I always had to kind of like tell myself to remember, that this part is smaller than this part, because this is like your pinky toe is here and this is the bone of your big toe. And also that your big toes are always facing in, just like your thumbs are always facing on the inside of the body. If you have a thumb over here, your hands are flipped out, and that's not this form. So again, over here, I think you can kind of see that this is probably that it's heavier at the bottom than at the top. And this foot is going to go through our curved line. Remember this curved line that we did in the beginning? Like that? And luckily, they give us a lot of hints. So we know that this corner is slightly below here. But over here, I'm going to move this foot over a little bit, because I think this line is landing a lot closer to our plumb line, our center line, than on here. And again, that's okay. As long as I have this curve, the curve really helps. Okay, so, also remember that this foot is hitting at, remember this is 1, and then say this is 50%. So this is just below, so here's 1, here's 50%. If you really, really want to know, you can always get your ruler, because we did them in 1 1/4 increments. So you could, in theory, just do the math, or you can just kind of eyeball it like me. It's going to land here and go here. How about that? There we go. Foot. Next! Elbows, joints, and muscles. So this one actually kind of had fun on this page, because you get to draw lots of fun circles. But let's go ahead and put in our lines first, our bone lines, before we get into squishy round lines. And like I said, again, we are following the curves. I think it might be easier to start on this side and go over so that you can kind of almost match it. Key points here to remember: there are joints at 4. There are joints in between at 6.5. And we do have some ankles down here, right? So this is a joint, this is a joint, this is a joint. We need to know where the joint, and this is also a joint, the wrist joint. We need to know where the joints are, because again, that's part of the proportions of our body. And the great thing about this method, which I probably should have said before, but I'm just remembering now, is that you can scale this at any size. So if your paper was smaller, then you wouldn't do 1 1/4 inches. You would do whatever gets you 9 heads, which is what this is called. So 1 head, 2 head, 3 head, 4 head, etc. heads, plus some space, plus or minus of the head. So we have a lot of bottom space, not so much top space, but I could have started this a little bit here and had less bottom space. I think you get the concept about scale. So let's go into these arms. So we have, what did I just say? There's a joint here. There's a joint here. There's a joint at 6.5. And then we have our little baby joints and wrists and all, not wrists, but joints. And then I won't do the wrist. So that gives us a point of reference when going here. So it has us going pretty close to the body. 1. And then, I don't know if you can necessarily see this, but it actually has you bow out just a hair. Our bodies are, I think, a lot rounder than we realize, and our bones are far more curved than we realize also. And kid bodies have to be drawn slightly different than this because not all of your bones have sealed. Like your leg bones are in 2 places and your hips are different, and so that kind of makes drawing children look a little bit different. Next, this line here, which I think they're hitting. I feel like these knees are kind of dropping straight down. Kind of. But the lines are curved. What am I saying? So I want my knee to hit here, and then I need my knee to hit on this line. So I'm dropping straight down from here. This leg is easy because it basically follows this line. Like it's pretty much already, I'm just going to bow it out so it hits in the center. And same for this one. It has us going, now look at this. So it has this line going just a hair on the inside, I think to give us a nice, good curve. And these lines should be drawn just as fierce as that very first line. Like we draw lines with boldness and tenacity, just like when you're standing on stage and performing your monologue. Like there really is no difference between this kind of energy and singing energy. Let's put in our shoulders. Ooh, that is really big. Okay, sushi eraser, here we go. Let's make, so look, this circle is very close to it. So it's really telling us about the fat right there and your shoulder socket, and less about making it like a perfect circle. So this is your bicep, and this little baby can go right in there, and we're gonna have a similar one going over here. Next, this is your forearm, this muscle right here. I don't remember what it's called. And on this side, we're kind of splitting the difference. The circles tell you where the weight of the muscles need to go. That's what I think they're for. And I kind of like this method because it tells you that like this part of the inside of the arm is bigger than that side of the arm. This side of the arm has more, like your muscle is turned inward. So it makes sense. Like, yeah, naturally it would be bigger here. It would be bigger here because of how, I kind of want this to be a little longer. Because of how your arm would be shaped. This kind of needs to be a little longer too. I think that'll be okay. And, okay, so let's go into our thigh muscles, which they're almost pretty much center. And our calf muscles. Oh, and, oh, we already did the pelvis. We did the nipples. Got the head. Okay, I think that's it. Next. Skin and face, fingers and toes. Faces are, they used to really terrify me. Oh, and ears. I forgot. I don't think I put ears on mine. They used to be really terrifying, and then I kind of learned a few tricks about, I call it a smudge face, because that's exactly what it is. We're going to smudge in this face. So I'm lifting this center line a little bit. And from the center, once again, we're going to hit, boom, straight in the middle line. So we have our cross here. From there, it's like a jump and a jump. That's how I describe it. You know, I feel like drawing is a little bit like cooking, and that's like, what's a pinch, what's a dash, what's a little, what's a hint. So I always say like a little bit and a little bit, which means like, I guess, 1/8 of an inch on either side. This is basically your tear duct / where your nose goes. And fortunately for us, this is a black man, so he's got some wide lips, and we're just going to gesture in his nose. All right, so enough filibustering. And filibuster. I just talked about the word filibuster to my class, actually. Most people don't know what that word means. Anyways, I'm getting off topic, but it's a really good word to use. And okay, so I'm going to jump down. So this is middle of middle. So this is the half of the half. It's the bottom of the nose. And then a little bit down from there, we're going to sketch in their lips. They have rather big lips, which is awesome. We love big lips. And I'm going to maybe make their eyes look a little less harsh. Maybe give them a little nasal labial folds. And I'm done. I'm out. Maybe if you want to, if it was like an older character, you might want to put in, I don't know if you can see this, but if you put in like little bitty cheek stuff and like a little bit of shading sometimes around here, you can put in like eye bags down here. It gives your character like a little bit more characterization. And fun fact, your ears are the exact length between the center of your eyeballs and the bottom of your nose. If your ears are bigger than that, then we know that you have really, really big ears. Right? And since he's African American, his lobes are connected. If he was something else, his lobes would not be connected. There's some kind of genetic thing like that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and make the head a little bit darker. And you could add some hair. You could give him like a fade line. Sometimes people will do that. They'll do like little bitty dots to kind of signify like African American male short hair. But that's also where you get into like your reference photos, so we know exactly what's going on. And the face is done. Now we have just a disembodied head with squares and round thingies on the bottom. All right, let's give this person a neck. So sushi, go in there. We're gonna get rid of that little 2. Fill that in. And this neck needs to be pretty thick because it is, as we say, a man in the Western Hemisphere. And he has big shoulders, big Gomez-y shoulders. I try to get this even as best I can, but I have stopped stressing about it. Now, this is where your reference to Gomez really can start to help you, as you can see like where the shoulder is, where is his collar, the bow tie, etc. Etc., etc., etc. Oh my God, Sushi, what happened? Oh, too much of a good thing. Okay, so here we go. Back to the lecture at hand. We're going to kind of just like rolling with the homies, rolling around, rolling down, and we're going to go to the hand. So I get why they have you do the circles, because it naturally creates concave and convex shapes. And that is the key to drawing a human. We are just a series of concave and convex shapes. Boom! Look at that! Wow! That is like such a good arm. Wow. Okay, let's try it over here. I didn't make the circle quite big enough, so I'm going to go out a little so we can get a better shoulder. And that's what I mean, like, don't worry about the circles being perfect, because as you go through it, you'll begin to see like, oh, that's how it goes. So this is really important, and I've kind of messed this up almost my whole life until really looking at it. This here nipple line is really important. It tells you that your arm, where the bicep meets your chest, is like 1/4 of the way down from this nipple line. I've never really gotten that right. I've honestly made arms too long. I've made them too short because of this. And this book was like, nope, you just got to do it like this. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. This is why I love teaching, and this is why I stay reading, because I am going to forever be a student of drawing. All right, so I'm sketching in a little bit more of his body. Boo-doo-doo-doo, here we go. And we're not going to give him very big hips because he's wearing pants and we don't see much. But I'm going to go over here. They don't tell you to really, I guess this is the crotch. So I don't know how to describe it. You'll just have to see me do it. Boom. I do this when I draw crotches because I feel like it gives me a better, like the right kind of concave, convex curve. So many terms, right? Geometry. It's what artists do for a living, really. That's what it should be. Yeah, geometry is definitely for artists. Like, I don't know why they call it a math, but it is nothing but art. It's always been art. I aced geometry. Most artists can ace geometry because it is just art. So now that I've put the legs in, this foot looks super duper crooked. That is just a matter of, I have to straighten this out here. And instead of it going, sushi! Okay, let's hit this line differently. What if we went down here, 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 here? Better. Much better. And then this foot is way too short. I can look at it and tell that it needs to be bigger. Okay. Little sushi here, little sushi there. Whoop. Little sushi. And here. All right. What's next? Well, it's basically done. So at this point, you are going to sushi eraser your little heart out and get all these lines out. So I went in and got rid of a lot of the lines, but I can still see a lot of the lines that gave us directions, and even some of our original plumb lines are there. I went in and kind of got in the face, but I completely forgot to give him some hands. So let's do these hands. Hands are a little hard, and it's totally acceptable to do really basic lobster claws. So I'm going to give us a little bit more space here, just so we can see what we're doing. Hands. We have that square, rectangle. Remember, the thumb always goes on the inside, no matter what. And it is like a little crooked carrot. I don't know. I don't really know what shape it is. But the other ones are also going to go down. And then there's another finger that sits out here. We have a hand. Good enough. Cut those little babies up. Call it a hand. Next hand. Once again, we have our, I want to keep calling them boxes, but technically they're squares. I'm going to go out, down, down. I guess I think of them almost like parallelograms, and that all the lines kind of relate to each other. He's got a big hand. He's got long hands, but that's okay. Long arms. Some people do. And feet. Don't worry about the feet because Gomez is wearing shoes. I'm going to reconnect these lines. And look, we have a person. Like, this is a person. And now we can go into the more fun part, which is adding in clothes. So when it comes to adding in the clothing, this is kind of my favorite part. I think it's a lot less stressful than, I want to put this here. So we have figure drawing reference, costume reference, the thing we're trying to make look like this and this, right? Get our green pencil and let's get into town. So like I said, we still remember that our waist is probably like here, but this suit, again, is hitting, here's the knees. Here is the knee. So the suit is hitting pretty low. Maybe here. Let's call it. And everything else on this is very, very square. So I'm going to square out everything. It's almost like, why did we spend so much time drawing all these straight lines, all these curvy lines, if we're just going to straighten them out? Why do we do it? Because we have to. Also, I like to drop the sleeve a little bit onto the hand. I just think it looks better and it makes their arms look less like too long. And then this is really gonna fill in because Gomez's zoot suit here is quite boxy. So I'm gonna go back up here. I like to establish the shoulders, and I'm gonna a little bit of that. I want to cut just a little bit. I'm cutting here because I'm looking at it and it looks like it's a little bit wider on this side, but that's okay. People are not always even. Ay. Okay. I want to make this one. Let me do little corrections here. He has a shirt on that has a very high collar. We can barely even see the difference between the two. And this is how I draw collars. I just make them tuck right back in there. Then from the collar, the jacket is going to follow this line and end up more or less over, let's see. Okay, let's draw his front line. So the jacket comes over here. I'm drawing this line. Over here and then up. So this is more than halfway the thigh. So over here. I'm going to sketch this up until about the waist. Then from the waist, we're going to make this line happen here. Boop, boop, boop. How about that? Go in and erase this body line here because his jacket is coming down here. Let's see, that sleeve, that goes there. Okay. So from here, then we can drop over. Sometimes it takes me a few tries to get these lapels correct. It really is just a matter of practice. But also remember, this is a mythical character. Gomez is not a real person. So if you make his collars like a little bit bigger, these collars are freaking huge. They're actually bigger than what they really are in like their costume life. Okay, let's hit that there. And then yep, good enough. Look at that. He's already got clothes on. Oh my god. Woo! So we want to make sure that we see that like his suit is sitting out from his body and that it is not like a dress. Maybe, and then the pants are honestly probably the easiest thing of them all. Oh, also this dips a little bit here. This front right here dips a little bit. Because that's just how it's sitting on his body. And let's put in some pants. These pants are quite big, so I'm going to make them pretty gesturally. And we even see how they like puddle over his shoes at the bottom. Same goes for here. Make like a very soft gesture line. And he has so much fabric. And then I like to draw this line to show a little bit of like a crease. But it's always kind of a weird line because the body does things. So I just try to make it look more or less natural. And then go ahead and erase. Now that we've erased, oh, here we go. Now that we've erased, let's go in and redraw the lines. I can see them very well on my, and this is honestly where I feel like I get a little bit, I don't know how to describe it other than like get a little dirty with it. Like you want it to look like someone is living in this body. Now, I don't like these hands. These hands make him look a little turned inward, kind of weak. But I want to get through this because that's something that you can go back and fix, and just exactly the way that you drew the hands before, you just draw them differently. You draw them in a different direction. So I want this hand to actually go more like this. Like just go along with the body and not hang down the way it is. It's okay. Like I said, this is supposed to be a kind of like crash course. We don't have a lot of time. There's no time, Gavin. We have to hurry up and make art. And then I want to straighten out this bow. I don't like the way that's bowing out there. I want to make it a little bit straighter. And the same's going to go for this inside. I'm just not liking this bow. But I do like making it look like there's more fabric. And it also kind of like adds weight. This is what I mean by sometimes if you want to get a little like sketchy. Or this could be advanced if you're like, no, thank you. All right, let's move on to getting in some kind of color into this. Now, oh, I forgot Gomez's bow tie. Can't have him without his. I'm going to go with bow-tied Gomez. Now, when I did this production for and remember the shirts always have a button there. When I did this for Lake Highland Prep, their middle school department, I gave Gomez a striped tie, and we went with, we hand painted all of the stripes for Gomez. So, quick thing about striping, you know, this is so big that you can really do just big, big gestures that show that this actually has direction. And follow the direction of the picture, because I just messed up on that one. Let's go back. Follow the directions on the page. So they're like going this way, this way. These are going to kind of have a slight bend to them. Follow the lines. Follow the lines. So now I'm putting in some little bitty details like his bow, not bow, his handkerchief. Maybe he has a really fierce handkerchief. So this is his pocket. There should be a pocket here. There's probably a pocket there. And just making sure that all of our lines are more or less clear. And the shoes, you can just paint these little babies black because they were already kind of sort of drawn as shoes. Just kind of gives like a little highlight shadow to the shoe. And then sometimes I'll just like fill them out. And you don't have to do this with pencil, but I like to, yeah, I just kind of get in the flow of it. So let's go into some color options, and then we're done with this. The things that you will definitely need to have, it needs to have a title block. So in very, very, very pretty prints. So what I've done in the past is take, when I am done, do this on a couple of different tests. So what I do is I have this, I run it through my printer, either this way or however, if you have the right printer, and I will have the printer do my title blocks. If you are scared, you can always print them out on a separate piece of paper and just put them up here. But what it needs to say is, mine would say Adams Family, the musical. And then this is Act 1. Say Scene 1. Or you could put Act 1 ... 1, however you want to number it. And then who is this character? This is Gomez Adams. And then if you had a director, other people, you could put directed by blank, blah, 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 blank. And then you can also put designed by, and I'm going to put my name at the bottom if you want to. Or if you don't have space, leave it off. This space here, and say this space like over here, not to get too close. These are for your swatches. So I'll write it this way. If you really want to impress them, go to the fabric store and get you some fabric. Cut it out and have like swatch. If you find a fabric for the bow tie, you have your bow tie swatch. Even this, have your other swatch. Anything else that goes along with this costume. So it's like, oh, I want it suiting. Or if you decide that you want to paint on the fabric. So you'd have like the fabric that you want, and then you would paint on it and show them like, this is the technique that I want for my stripes. That way they can touch it. The way that I attach it is basically, think of it, there's like glue here. And then this part can flap up. So that way whoever's looking at it can touch it. So you're going to glue. This is going to be glue. 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 And, oh yes, let's talk about color. For beginners, I always recommend dry medium because the learning curve is just a lot easier. You probably have experience with colored pencils and markers. So these are my super old. I've had these really more than 10 years. I just keep replacing them as they go out. Now, Gomez suit is typically gray and white. So I did my lines with pencil, but if I really wanted to be true to form, I would have not done lines with pencil and gone straight in with a colored pencil. So I'm doing this on watercolor paper, right? Now, there is Bristol paper, there's other drawing papers. I really like it. I feel like the watercolor paper gives you a really good foundation for putting your swatches and like all the other stuff. And it just holds up to everything. So if you wanted white lines and not gray lines, I recommend don't do the pencil lines. Go straight in with your gray gray colored pencil. And then I would do the lines. Honestly, try a gel pen. You may have to buy a paint pen. If you had something like this, like if you were doing, your costume also had white on top of black, right? I would recommend a paint pen or even just regular acrylic white paint with a tiny little brush to go in and do your lines. But we'll just say that the lines are gray. It's a black gray suit. So I could go in with my colored pencil and just color it in, really. Just color it in. And we'll worry about the lines later. So colored pencil, you get the point, right? Let's move on to markers. Now the cool thing about markers is that you can blend them. The thing with markers is that you should always have like a swatch piece of paper for everything you do. And I want so these markers come in, okay, so these markers come in different kinds of, where is it? Can we focus? I don't know if it'll focus. It says cool gray. There is a warm gray. So like the basic, easiest form of color theory to understand is that cool grays have blue tones, warm grays have red tones, orangey tones to it. I want to go with cool tones because everything about the Addams Family is cool, right? And this has a wedge. This has like a wedge shape on it, and then it also has, I got these at Walmart because like I said, your cousin has to keep it on the affordable. The cool thing about markers is that sometimes you can create lines with the marker because for example, if you go line, line on top, you can get like different little bitty layers on top of it. So I'm like, go back over this half to make it darker. And then every time you pass over the marker, it's going to get darker. So this is 2 passes. This is like 3 passes, 4 passes. This will be like our little lightest one over here, right? So you can you can slowly build up. The cool thing about them is that you do get really interesting shapes. And it's the fastest method ever. I also again, you want to be a little free with it. Saving space is actually a good thing because it helps your eye kind of see like what it's actually looking at. And I like to draw with the lines because it helps with the flow. Like we want everything to flow together. I'm only going to do half. Whoop. Didn't I just say go with the lines? I just said go with the lines. And what did I do? I didn't go with the lines. And I can totally see it, but that's okay. Go with the lines. Go with the lines. And I'll do this half. Now you will need definition again because you definitely lose a lot with doing this method, but you lose it either way. I'm gonna make, we will go in with, I'm gonna go in with a black marker. Now sometimes I will go in with a really fine point marker, but I do kind of want this to have like a, my personal style is a little gestury. So I go back in and I like the sketches. I like that there is some shape, some swoop, some form to it because fabric has weight, and that is a key part of what we are really trying to capture with our drawings is the weight of fabric and the folds, the shadowing, the shading. And like I know that these lines over here are much bigger. My bolder lines. And the way you get these kind of quick lines is you have to go quick. You have to sort of keep it moving, otherwise your brain will be like, but wait, I want more, I need more, and you have to sort of like, no brain, no, just keep going, okay, that's all I'm gonna do. That's all I'm gonna do there. And then maybe I want a little bit more shadowing here. Little shadowing there. We're not going to worry about that, little baby. And half done. I mean, I like the marker personally. I think it gives look. I feel like we know what we're talking about. You can go in. So if you wanted black stripes, you could go in and do like little bitty black stripes. Oop. Straight. Sometimes I can't draw with sleeves on all the time because I find that it always messes up my lines. So I wouldn't do the lines with this big old marker. I would do them with something much finer. But again, I like the way this looks with the marker up here. I'm not crazy about it down here. I think it distracts from some of the beauty of leaving the space. But that's what we learn. I'm trying to think of anything else. That's, skin tone. All right, let's try this brown one and see what color it comes out. Now again, you're not going to swatch on your paper, but I'm going to just go ahead and swatch on this paper. Okay, so that's 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers. I don't know. It's a little too cafe con leche for me. Let's try this one. I like that brown. That's brown 5. This is brown 11. That's too dark. This one could work for a different skin tone, but I'm kind of liking this one. It's got a lot of yellows in it. What did I say? Brown number 5? Shoot. Is that the right color? Yeah. And this, like, fast, as fast as you can go. Try not to overlap too much. Unless, of course, you want it for, like, the hair. And get these little ears. Why did I do this on the big side? I was thinking I was going to need this wedge, but I feel like I kind of needed to do it with the littler one. Let's see. Okay. Hands. Which I don't care for my little hands over here, but that's okay. Like I said, you will have lots of time to do this. I just want to get you this tutorial as quickly as I can before I have to go do this golf shoot this week. Now again, you can go back in. I would go back in with maybe a ballpoint pen or a super fine like Sharpie marker, or you could even go back in with your pencil and give your face more redefinition. Look at that, like completely forgot that little spot right there. That's okay. I'm going to call this done. Does this look like a finished rendering? Not exactly. But I hope that you understand the process of getting this together. And I'm going to quickly move on to some scenic stuff. I'm not a scenic artist, so I don't have, I'm not a scenic artist. I'm not a set designer, and I don't teach either of these. So I don't really have books that teach this, but I think I can give you some ideas on how to do the ground plan. On to the set design portion of this. I did my best trying to find ground plans and things of I was like, let's just pick a theater. I picked the Houston Performing Arts Center, which I highly recommend that you know everything you can know about all the theaters in your local area. Talk about plays you've seen. Talk about what's going on this season, what plays you would like to see, what did you see last time. Give them the full Gavin experience. This is your opportunity to be the ultimate theater nerd. So I've been theater nerding out and looking at, which also one of my theater special interests is building construction, architecture. If I couldn't be even more of a nerd, I took classes on this in college because I love architecture. So this is going to be our front facing, right? So this is the house, this is the stage. We got some lights going on here. The wings are going off that way. This is the psych, which the full word for that is cyclorama. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but that was on a vocab test I had in my theater arts training. And next, I pulled a ground plan from a different theater, Houston Theater. Not the one at the Performing Arts Center because I couldn't find the ground plan. But this is a proscenium stage, which means that the proscenium is this. So you're getting all the theater vocab words, right? This is the proscenium right here. It means that it is a stage that has a hard front, like a fourth wall, with a thrust apron, is what this is called. Also known as the pit, but if it has a floor, it's called the apron. If there is no floor, then it is a pit because there is no floor, and that is where the orchestra lives, or some theaters store costumes down there. It depends on space and budget. So this is a proscenium theater with the house and the booth and the lights and all the wings and everything. And I also wanted to find, this actually is the Houston Performing Arts Center. So what we're looking at here, the stage is here. And these are the rows going up, where this is just the ground floor mezzanine level. So this is the level that you walk in on. And then this shows all of level like 1, 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4, however they want to number it. And I also pulled a couple of reference photos. And I pulled reference photos for the Addams Family. I did do this musical years ago, but, you know, I'm not a set designer. And anyways, even if I was, everybody has to do research. Everybody does image research. Image research. That can also go on your board if you're like, I only have one swatch for Gomez. Fill out that other space over there with your research, your images. Show them what you've been looking at, right? So we have our research, we have our ground plan, we have our like side view, we have our ground plan, and this is what we're going to do. So for this part of the assignment, you will need tracing paper, more watercolor paper, pen, pencil, I don't know, probably a ruler, probably an eraser, probably something else. We'll get to it. So this is tracing paper. I bought this on Amazon, which is why it came in this bag. Normally it is sold like regular paper. It's carbon paper. Your grandma and grandpa remember this when people used to have to make copies with things. This is what they use. So it works by having this carbon on it. And you place it down. Let me make sure this is the right side. You don't really need like a pen per se. Oh, that helps. Thinner is better. You just have to make a mark on it and it will transfer. But if you can get a ballpoint pen and give a fairly good push, you'll have a very nice copy. So I'm going to get some tape and tape this down because I don't want it moving. And I highly recommend you do the same. So I learned this tip, tick and trip, from another artist. So if you take your tape and make it a little less sticky, save your money. Artist drafting tape is trash. It's garbage. It's not worth the money. Somebody said do this and they are correct. It is far superior than any other tape. They just can't seem to make it like the perfect amount of this. It's like I need it to be sticky but not sticky. So I'm gonna sticky it down. And honestly, I want to kind of tape it to the table because I really don't want this thing to move. Okay, so tape that there. Get all of it. Great. Now take a regular old pen. This is a red one. It's fine. And I am going to use my ruler for some of these straight lines because I do want to keep the straight lines. So here's some of the straight lines I want to keep. Whoop. I knew that was going to happen if I didn't tape it. Okay, let's tape. Right now, I'd say I'm trying to get the bones of this theater. Where are the things that I have to know before I take this picture off and get into some of the more like artsy stuff of it? Like I need to know, where is my audience lines? Like where are they in comparison to the stage? So I'm going to add in these lines here and freehand this one because I want it to be curved. I'm drawing in the truss lines over here and just doing a real gesturally, you know how they kind of are like double triangles? They look like triangles to me, the trusses. So I know where those are. And I'm trying to debate how much of the depth of this space do I really need to capture. But I know that there are wings going here. But the line is more like this. And probably like this. I'm going to draw in this because I think it'll help me for my mind's eye reference. And then if I need to erase it, hopefully I can erase it. Sometimes graph paper is not always that forgiving. But what this does tell me Okay, now I'm remembering why I needed to draw in the psych. This is telling me that this is basically the back wall of this stage. So when if I am going to put in, like, say, wing lines, they would go probably there, probably here, right? So then we know that there's, like, I guess a back wall. A back wall, and there's stuff going on up here. I'm not going to draw this in this truss because I don't think it's necessary, but I will draw in these other just like balcony lines because, again, all of this is part of the theater structure that your plan needs to have. This is a real pole. Like, this actually has dimension. Okay, let's see what's underneath the hood. I added in lines here. I added in the trusses here. I kind of just made bubbles to show that there are seats here. I added in the balcony line, line to the hallway, the stairwells, and this pole. Actually, let me add in. Every time you look at this, you will see more lines to add. And... I hit it backwards. Oh my gosh. All the most of the carbon went on the other side. Ay, ay, ay. Do as I say, not as I do. But, hey, look at this. What did we learn? Live and learn. Wow, look at that pretty carbon. That was supposed to be pretty, pretty carbon on this side. You can kind of see it. I can't. Oh, dyslexia is such a gift, you know. I didn't even think, like, let's look at this. Let's see if we're on the right direction. Okay, let me lower this. Boop. All right, you can see the lines that I see, meaning I'm going to go back over these with pencil very quickly so we can get into, actually, I'm going to ink some of these. I'm going to ink these outer lines and get into drawing our Addams Family set right here. And then we'll be done. Okay, now that we have our ground plan done, because if only you knew me to know how on brand this really is for me. That's why I call this channel Professor Woo Woo, because I am Professor Woo Woo. So we're not worrying about scale. I didn't mention a scale ruler or anything before because I don't know what scale this is. Like, I got this off of DuckDuckGo because I don't like using Google because Google's just trying to sell you things and it's just really not good information. So I like to use DuckDuckGo and anything that's not Safari. What's the other one? The one with the fox. Firefox. I like searching with Firefox. I feel like they just give you better images. But I don't know what scale this is. So we just have to go off of, like, what do we understand about theater? We understand that this is closer to the audience and this is farther away. This is downstage. This is upstage. Because I'm sure you already know this, but in traditional Shakespearean theater, it was a rake stage because the audience was on a flatter plane. And so the only way for people to see people back here, if you're like, what ho, sir? And it's like, I come here with a letter there. The person here, the audience won't be able to see the person here if they're on the same plane. So even though this is flat, we still call this upstage and we call this downstage. This is, so if you're in the house, this is house right, which is whatever you're doing facing the theater. Facing the stage, and this is house left, this is center house, these are the wings, and when you flip it around, so I am now on the stage being like, what to there for, sir? This is now stage right, and this is now stage left. This is really important to know because when you start talking about ground plans and things coming in and out, you need to make sure that you reference the theater in the proper direction. And I don't know, there might be someone there who's trying to trip you up because it's like, oh, you know, do you really know what you're talking about? Are you just an actor? And you'll be like, I'm an actor, but I'm a smart one who knows all kinds of things. So I want to for my ground plan, not my ground plan, my front view, yes, because this, technically speaking, this is your ground plan because we are looking at the ground, right? So this is an elevation, or could also be called an illustration, and then of course this is the side view. So I'm going to add in, I like the idea, it's probably really hard to see, but there's like a bridge here going up and then the rest of the house. When we did it, we had a really high level for the students to go up. And this is a really important scene in it. So we'll do this scene. This is like towards the beginning. Okay, here we go. So I decided to create this upper level here, and I'm using the cyclorama, the cyc, as kind of like my guide. And also, if this is the bottom of the balcony, then if somebody is standing here, then they're looking at the person over here, and that's great. Also, I wanted to mention, because I said this to myself, I was like, oh, this line was going a lot straighter, and so was this one, and I thought, oh, let me cheat this out a little bit so that the audience can get a better angle, because I was thinking about the people sitting over here, they're gonna miss some of the action, and that is always like, we kind of sacrifice the people over here. But I think if I cheat this a little bit more and just say that like, my steps are kind of, I want them to be those like grand steps where they kind of puddle out like this, like old fashioned, you know, everything in the Addams family's house is like a trillion years old. So now my audience member sitting here isn't going to get a big fat piece of wall. And I probably need to do the same thing over here to, again, like cheat this out. These are things they're going to want to hear in your design. Like, how did you think about getting this world in here? I'm going to do steps. I don't really do steps very well. Maybe I do, maybe I do, maybe I do. Ah! Okay, good enough. All right, steps in. I kind of like these steps better, actually. Wow, those are really great steps, huh? I like that they look like steps too, and they're kind of like open. So, and of course we would have a railing going down here because we got to make sure that people are safe. Great. Ground plan, halfway done. So now I'm realizing that if people like do, how are they going to get way up here? So I'm going to lower this so I can just create like one more step instead of having like a ton of steps. Here's something I forgot to do. I completely forgot to do this. Was figure out the middle of this. Please do this first. It's 10 inches, so it's at 5. I need this line because I'm noticing that my lines are getting off. Like everything is getting really crooked. I forgot. It happens. Okay. Now. Especially for this arch. I want to make sure the top of this arch really, you know, hits home. Okay. Now, again, you're not going to put in your lines in hard Sharpie marker where they are going to not be able to be erased. I did this, and as soon as I did it, I was like, nope! You were supposed to put in the hard lines for this demo and not any of the lines you're going to need to move. So I have this big, big ugly line here. But again, this is a sketch. So I want to make a little step and then a step and then a little bitty step here for my audience. For my actors to get on up there. Now, what we're looking at here is what I decided is this scene here. We have our stairwells here. I remember that we need some people to come and go. I can't remember if they need to come and go on this side as well, but we definitely need this because there is a gag where Wednesday shoots an arrow into an apple on top of I think it's a couple people's heads. It's definitely like Pugsley and somebody else. It's been like 3 years since I did this, so I'm trying to remember it. The moon plays heavily in the musical version. Uncle Fester is in love with the moon. Who knows why? I added in these very gesturally trees because I've always felt like the stage productions needed a little bit more background because it's just like black void. And I honestly just pictured that they live in a cemetery, and cemeteries have lots of trees. And I think there might also be a reference to a tree. I can't really remember, but there's also all that like Adam and Eve, apple, good versus evil kind of like narratives in it. So trees play heavily, snakes, anything that kind of creeps you out, totally works. And then here is our big center table here. And then I made sure that I have like equal amounts of chairs and seats, and nobody sits here, of course, because the audience has to look in. Lurch is gonna come and go. Sometimes they have Wednesday's rack where she puts Pugsley, kind of like will live on either side of the stage. But for this scene, there's no rack because we're in the dining room. And for the I just realized I didn't put any down here. For this like texture, I was thinking it's almost like that wood paneling that's like squares, almost like parquet flooring. You might not know any of these words, but if you do, parquet flooring and other types of like, I guess I don't really have to do that. This could just be, you could just make this dark to signify that it is like a black hole. It could be a painting. You could have people come from here. It could just be a mysterious black orb that they stand in front of. Again, I'm doing this in pencil because I just want to show you what it is and let you be inspired. Also, unfortunately, I'm very limited on time this week. Otherwise, I would love to go in depth. The next step is taking, because this isn't even what they're asking, but I think you should do it because we didn't come here to play around, right? This is what they're gonna know. This is how they're gonna know you know what you're talking about. So here's our ground plan. I would just draw right on this and just make it as neat as possible and maybe print out a couple of these if you mess up. But the ground plan is the vertical view of this. So because this is already a down angle, we could see the top of the table, but I didn't draw the top of this. So it's kind of look like, I'm going to really just like rough it in. Oh, maybe a little too rough. And then it's gonna go back here. And then you're gonna have tree. Because remember, this is from above. This is not from the side. This is not from the front. And then put tree. Although, actually it should be like this. Okay, so we'll put tree, and the big table goes here. We're going to put those chairs right back in because we could see them before. It's like chair, and then chair. And that's really it. That's all the ground plan has for this scene. And then again, we are going to go back to our labeling. And in this case, you may fit it here. You may want to put it up here. I would probably go the long way, but again, it depends on how big your paper ends up being. So I'm going to put Addams Family Musical Act 1. I think this was like scene, we'll say 8. And put like dinner. And down here I would put, this is the it was the Hobby Theater, Houston, Texas. Okay, we have the Addams Family. Some people will put like book by or lyrics by. It again, I put as much information as I think I can fit on here without it being completely overwhelming or ugly or anything. I would put little notes about things like wall panels, wood parquet, something like that. Or you could talk about texture. If you wanted to make the leaves out of some kind of fabric or something else, you could have that as supplemental. If you made this a little bit smaller, say if it was maybe half the size, like it fit this way, then maybe you could put your images on it. Or you just show up like a boss and you're like, here's my front view. Here's my side view, which nothing really has to go on this one, but honestly, I would have it too, and I would label it the same way. Label Addams Family Musical. What is it for? What is it for? Because this is how set designers show up. They have this is what the pretty stuff, this is where your art goes. Here's a technical drawing. Here is my ground plan that has everything labeled. Like, what is this? These are chairs. This is a table. These are steps. So you would go in and put the steps. You'd say, this is the catwalk here. This is a tree. This is a that. All of those kind of things you want to make sure are on your ground plan, and everything needs to be labeled the same way. So if this is labeled Addams Family Musical, Act 1, Scene 8, Dinner, then so does this one, so does this one. If you put scene design by Gavin, put that there, put it here, or if you put book, whatever you do, make it consistent. But I always like to have I like having a bigger plans and then have a separate sheet of paper for my images, because otherwise your images end up being like these teeny tiny little thumbnails, and they don't really serve you nor the person who's looking at your work that well. Well, Gavin, I hope that this has been informative. I hope you learned a lot of things. I'm sure there were a lot of terms I went over that you're like, I already know that. And that's the whole point, is that you just go out there and you be your beautiful, bright, confident, you got this, like it's already in your destiny to be an artist. That's the fun thing about being an artist. Like, no one can take it away from you. Like, it doesn't matter whether you get this or not. No one can stop you from being an artist, whether your life goes here or there or everywhere, whether you go into the science field, because a lot of us artists have natural scientific minds, whether you go into engineering, whether you stay in the arts, whether you're like me, where I'm like an artist turning into an engineer because I am working on reinventing sewing machines. I am learning about how to be a writer. Like, the more and more I fall in love with being an artist, the like more and more I get to explore all these different art fields. And I also really love teaching. I really do love teaching. So anyways, hopefully you learned some things. Like I said, I'm going to give you, okay, what do I have to remember? I'm going to send you Google Docs stuff. I'm going to scan the notes that I did from everything I did here. I'll just go ahead and scan it, and then you can just look at it in a file. And like I said, I'm pretty busy this upcoming week, but that doesn't mean that you can't email me or text me or something. It just means that having like a one-on-one, we will have to plan it, and I don't know my schedule yet. Hopefully it's a golf shoot, so your grandpa play golf, so he's not on the golf course like once the sun goes down and it's still winter. So I'm hoping that we'll have early calls and I'll get home very early, and maybe we could have another like Zoom meeting, something to go over your stuff before you have to audition. But either way, even if this is our last time talking, break a leg from your cousin who's been to England to study Shakespeare. I have degrees in this. Like, I don't want to brag, but I'm a serious nerd. I take my nerding to the next level. And I use nerd as like a moniker of pride, like anything else. Like when people are like, oh, I'm an athlete, I'm like, yeah, I'm a nerd, I'm an artist. And like, you need to respect, because literally everything around us is art. Like, everything is art. Nothing around us, just our homes do not exist in nature. artists like us had to design it. And so I'm just like, it's a pretty important job if you ask me. So anyways, have a great evening. Good luck with everything. I just love you so much. I just love art anyway. So bye. I'll be in touch. You got my number. You know where I live. You know who my mama is. And I know who your daddy is because he's my first cousin.